Hello, thank you for watching Collector's Edition Printing Press Unboxing. This here, ladies and gentlemen, is the printing press. Let's bring in our history specialist who can tell us a little bit more about it. Hello, sir, and thank you for being here. When was the printing press invented? Who invented it? And what was the big deal behind it? Why was it so revolutionary?
Thanks for having me on your video. According to history, the printing press was invented around 1440 by Johannes Gutenberg in order to mass produce books. Gutenberg's invention made printing lessons laborious, meaning books took less time to produce, which enabled book sales to skyrocket. This was the beginning of an intellectual revolution. Literacy came back to society and people were able to read. The Gutenberg printing press, that was the name of it, it was allowed it was a revolutionary device that changed education and overall copying for the better. The Chinese, however, actually invented the first printing press 1,000 years before Gutenberg. According to Live Science, the Chinese created a printing press that, quote, used wooden blocks with multiple words to press or rub texts into paper, end quote. Because the Chinese language has over 10,000 similar characters, the process of using the press became cumbersome and not worthwhile, making the printing press fade from the minds of the people for about a century. At the beginning of the 15th century, copying text became labor intensive and caused people to become illiterate. Other contributions to illiteracy were the slow production of books and therefore the high price because books were produced so slowly they cost a lot of money and were considered too expensive for most people, leaving only the high class wealthy enough to afford them. This prompted Johannes Gutenberg to revisit and redesign the Chinese printing press in the middle of the 15th century.
So, now that we know a bit about the history behind the printing press and its origins, let's talk a little bit about how it was made. According to the History Guide, quote, Gutenberg devised an alloy of lead, tin, and antimony that would melt at low temperature, cast well in the die, and be durable in the press. It was then possible to use and reuse the separate pieces of type as long as the metal in which they were cast did not wear down, end quote.
This new printing press allowed workers to have more freedom, produce texts 10 times quicker, dramatically drop the price of books, and actually give people the opportunity to be educated.
Here's how it worked. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, reusable and movable metal type was covered in ink and placed letters up on what was called the lower platen. Then, a sheet of paper was placed on top of the letters, which was then covered by an upper platen. Once the paper was covered, it was finally placed underneath the press where paper would be pressed against the metal type and words and sentences appeared on the page. So, how much was the printing press able to produce in a day?
Well, it depended on how many hours went into printing. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, it was able to print about 250 pages an hour. Because the printing press made the process of copying text easy, it allowed for news stories and books to spread across cities and even countries.
Now, relating that to today, the printing press is the basis of how newspapers and books are printed, right? Although news has shifted more to mobile phones and other media, they too are a result of the printing press, in the sense that they allow for widespread communication. As we all know, phones have the capability for text to be typed and shared instantly. even if its message is untrue.
That is correct. The printing press also relates to another piece of technology we use today, a printer. A printer is basically Gutenberg's printing press, just electronic and automated. Using ordinary paper and inkjets, printers can print copies of papers faster. The impact of the printing press today has also changed how books are created. Creating printing presses have become more efficient and automated through the years, it has allowed books to become published at massive rates. Printing presses aren't just used for text either. They can also be used for art. Art reproduction is exactly the same as text reproduction, but instead of having to redraw and repaint, the press uses multiple layers to reproduce the art piece.